It's Jose. So Bleacher recently released an article yesterday talking about every NBA team and their top trade targets. So I want to take a look at it and talk about the players a little bit and if trading for them is actually possible and what it does for the team. If you want to check out the article for yourself, it'll be linked in the description down below. Alright, let's jump right into the first team, which is the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks are currently struggling and have a 13-19 record and are out of the playoff picture. This team desperately needs size and defense, so Bleacher Report brings up last year's most improved player, Lauri Markkanen, Toronto's all-star Pascal Siakam, and Dorian Finney-Smith Jr. from the Nets. It's clear that all of these moves would be to pair Trae Young with a star and make a competitive push, but these deals will require draft capital, which the Hawks do have 2 firsts for this year and a ton of second-round picks. It's only a matter of if they think this threads the needle for the Hawks and brings them back to the Eastern Conference Finals. When it comes to Dorian Finney-Smith Jr., I would imagine that the deal would also get the Hawks some size with a big. Moving on to the next team, we have the Boston Celtics. Now the Celtics have been on a tear and currently have the best record in the NBA with 26 wins to 6 losses, on top of being one of the favorites to win the championship. So additions to this roster won't be as big as others. Bleacher Report proposes the Celtics get Cedi Osman, John Konchar, and Andre Drummond. Osman and Konchar would bring extra wing depth, which the Celtics do lack, and Andre Drummond would be an additional center to add to replace the aging Al Horford and Porzingis, who can tend to be injury prone. Going down to New York, the next team is the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets are in desperate need of a scoring star to pair up with the rising Mikal Bridges. They currently sit at 15-18 and are on a 3-game losing streak. Bleacher Report suggests that the Nets go after Donovan Mitchell, Trae Young, or Tyus Jones. Mitchell and Young are obvious pairs and make the Nets way better, but the Nets have a lot of assets and the asking price these teams might want could deter them from making a move. I personally really like Tyus Jones and think that he could provide a spark off the bench for the Nets. If anything, Donovan Mitchell could be likely since New York is his home, and if the Cavs can't reach an extension with him, they'll have to move him, which gives the Nets a great opportunity to land him. Alright, onto the Charlotte Hornets. They have a disastrous 7-23 record with a 10-game losing streak. The article thinks the Hornets should get draft capital, Moses Moody, and AJ Griffin. The Hornets have been really bad this season, and LaMelo Ball continues to be injury prone and is now sidelined with an ankle injury. This Hornets team is in dire need of more young talent to develop, and the draft should be their main focus. When it comes to the players, Moody and Griffin are young talents that can develop nicely and fit the Hornets roster alongside LaMelo. Next up, we have the Chicago Bulls, who are one of the more confusing teams in the league. Most think that it's time to blow things up in Chicago and rebuild or reset to something or someone else, meaning that Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan would have to be traded. Like the Hornets, the article suggests the Bulls get draft compensation and that they should also get Tyus Jones or Zaire Williams. Like I mentioned before, the Bulls would be looking young for a reset. I'm not sure if they'd give up Patrick Williams in this case or if he goes from picks. People like Jones and Zaire Williams are a good place to start on top of the potential picks they would get. I'm not sure if the Wizards do this though, unless it's for Pat Williams, since they have Poole and Kuzma, so I don't see them going after DeRozan or LaVine. Up next we have the Cavs, and they certainly have had their ups and downs this season, and are currently 18-14. They're looking to bolster their roster to hold up until Mobley and Garland return from injury, but they also want to stay competitive enough to keep Donovan Mitchell happy in hopes that he agrees to a contract extension. Bleacher Report suggests that the Cavs get Monte Morris, DeLon Wright, or Davion Mitchell. And I actually really like all of these guys, and the Cavs have a couple of assets but only one first-round pick, which is this year's, so these deals would go for second-rounders and probably on top of the first round. I think it is possible for the Cavs to get one of these moves done, but I'm not necessarily sure if this moves the needle and pushes the Cavs over the hurdle enough to actually compete or to even make Donovan Mitchell happy. Our first team from the West is the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavs are 19-14 and need to complement Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving with what they've needed for a very long time, which is defense. The article wants the Mavs to get Dorian Finney-Smith in return, Alex Caruso, or Isaiah Stewart. I don't personally think the Nets would move Finney-Smith back to Dallas, since it's only been a year and the Mavs don't really have the assets that the Nets would want, so this is unlikely unless a third team gets involved. And honestly, as cool as it would be to see Caruso or Stewart in a Mavs jersey, it's pretty much a similar situation with the lack of assets for them. So I don't really necessarily see them making this move. This next one is pretty short. It's the defending champs, the Denver Nuggets. They are currently the 3rd seed with a record of 23-11. the champs would look to strengthen their bench, so the article thinks Jae'Sean Tate, Trendon Watford, or Jalen Smith would fit the team. These moves would be great for the Nuggets and entirely possible to replace the hole left behind by Bruce Brown leaving. From the champs to the worst team in the league, the Detroit Pistons are up next. The Pistons are 3-29 and need to look at the future through young talent. The article wants the Pistons to get draft picks, Quentin Grimes, or Jett Howard to add some young talent and change things up. Players like Grimes and Howard have either reduced or no roles with their teams, so the Pistons could look to get them for a low price and try to develop them into something else. I don't hate this, but I don't see this making them much better. So for the Pistons, it's really up to if they see the potential in Grimes or Howard. Now we're looking at a team that gets a lot of trade rumblings, the Golden State Warriors. They've been struggling recently and they're 15-17, and they really need somebody to pair alongside Curry due to the ups and downs that Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins are having. Bleacher Report proposes that the Warriors go after Pascal Siakam, Kyle Kuzma, or Dorian Finney-Smith. Siakam has been in trade rumors as of late and is having a great season. I've also seen a lot of chatter from going to the Warriors from obviously Warriors fans, and they could be in the sweepstakes for him as he offers the impact needed and complements Curry enough to make them contenders again. When it comes to Kyle Kuzma, I feel like this would just be a good backup in case they didn't get Siakam, but I don't think Kuzma is worth giving up assets for when it doesn't make them contenders. And Dorian Finney-Smith, who has been brought up a lot in this article, would add much needed defense to this team, but like Kuzma, I don't think it makes them the contenders quite like Siakam does. So up next, we got the Houston Rockets, who are an even 15-15. This Houston team has been performing better than expected and has had some pretty impressive stretches on defense, but they certainly need to up their offense if they want to compete in the postseason. To address the issue, the article thinks Malcolm Brogdon, Corey Kispert, or Jordan Clarkson would fit the role. All these players address the main offensive issues with Houston, and that's shooting. Out of everyone, the former Sixth Man of the Year, Malcolm Brogdon, would fit the role basically the best, since he knows how to lead a bench on a winning team. I think Houston has the assets to get any one of these guys, but with Brogdon, he's a free agent in 2025, and Houston isn't in a win-now mode, so they'd probably have to be willing to pay him and sign him. Next up is the Indiana Pacers, and they have a record of 17-14. The Pacers have a bright spot in Haliburton, and he boosts everybody else's play, making the Pacers the top offense in the league. The article states that the Pacers need a boost in defense and suggests Pascal Siakam, Kyle Kuzma, or Jeremy Grant. The Pacers are in a really good position to get any one of these guys, but I think the best fit would certainly be Siakam. Siakam brings a great defensive and paint presence while also being a pretty solid shooter, so he's a good all-around player that would help Haliburton achieve the next gear and lead to more wins. I like Kuzma, but he ultimately is just going to take the ball away from Haliburton and have less of an impact. And Grant is a great player, but I don't think any team wants to take on that massive contract for a player that might not necessarily be worth it. The LA Clippers are next, and they have a record of 19-12. They've been doing great lately as Harden is looking more comfortable in his role and Russell Westbrook is flourishing off the bench. The main thing the Clippers need is depth, so the article suggests they get Cedi Osman, Jae'Sean Tate, or Reggie Bullock. All these guys add more depth, but the Clippers' main problem is that they have no picks to really trade, and giving up players causes the problem that they're already in. But if they were able to get one of these guys, I would personally go for Cedi Osman, who adds some length and shooting while being a decent defender. The Los Angeles Lakers are up next with a 17-17 record. The LeBron James-led Lakers will be in constant trade talks until the end of time, and are looking to add someone to replace the inconsistent D'Angelo Russell and add more off-ball scoring. The article suggests that they get Zach LaVine, Alex Caruso, or Bojan Bogdanovic. In theory, Zach LaVine would be a great fit alongside LeBron and Anthony Davis, and they could make a package that could potentially land them LaVine and lead to more wins. But I'm honestly not sure if that gives them the edge over other teams since LaVine hasn't really been a part of a winning basketball team. Let's just look at last year's playoffs. If LaVine is on this Lakers team, do they beat the Nuggets? I don't think so. Now, Alex Caruso and Bojan Bogdanovic add more depth and shooting/hustle to the team, but if LaVine doesn't thread the needle for me, then those guys certainly won't either. And the last team I'm going to be talking about for the first part of this video will be the Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies have a record of 10-22 and are slipping back into being a bad team after getting a glimpse of hope with Ja Morant's return. Bleacher Report really wants the Grizzlies to get Kyle Kuzma, Dorian Finney-Smith, or John Collins. Collins here interests me the most since he could go for a cheap price and could thrive in a different environment, as he hasn't done so well in Utah and hasn't shown the flashes he once did in Atlanta. Kuzma would be a great second option for Memphis, as he provides great scoring and solid defense, and Dorian Finney-Smith again is a great 3-and-D type of player. The Grizzlies' decision would be up to if they want to draft high this season or go all in and try to push for a playoff run and get players that get wins now. Other than that, that's all for part 1 of this video. Part 2 will be up tomorrow, and I really hope you guys enjoyed, and make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on the article so far and what players you would want to see on your favorite team. I'm Jose Rojas, signing off.